In this lesson, we want to review function notation. So up to this point in our course, we've worked with functions where we used y as the dependent variable and x as the independent variable. So now we want to go a step further and think about another way to kind of notate a function. This notation is known as function notation. So let's begin by looking at a few basic functions. So we have a linear function, y equals 5x minus 7. We have a quadratic function, y equals x squared minus 3x plus 4. And we have the square root function, y equals the square root of 2x minus 1. So at this point, we should know these three relations are functions. If I input something in for the independent variable x, I'm going to get a unique output for the dependent variable y, right? So for each x, there's going to be one y. Now, when we work with functions, you're going to typically see the name of the function as f, g, or h, although other letters could be used. And then what we're going to do is we're going to replace y with a notation such as f of x, g of x, or h of x. So I'm just going to use a different one in each example. So I'm just going to change my y into f of x. I'm just going to say f of x is equal to 5x minus 7. Okay, so these are the same. I'm just replacing y with f of x. And I want to note here that these parentheses do not mean multiplication. This is read f of x. Okay, it's not f times x. A lot of students get confused on that. For this one, I'm going to replace it with g of x. So instead of y, I'll just say g of x is equal to, we have x squared minus 3x plus 4. And then for this one, I'm going to use h of x. So I'm going to say that h of x is equal to the square root of 2x minus 1. So I don't want this to confuse you. All we did was we replaced the dependent variable in each case with either f of x, g of x, or h of x. So in other words, this function up here on the top, its name is f, and it's a function of x, so we just say f of x, right, instead of y. Here we named our function as g, so we say g of x. Here we name the function as h, so we say h of x, right? We're just saying that the function depends on x. That's what this notation is for. So you might be asking, why would this notation be used? What can we do with it? Well, one immediate use for this is the ability to quickly indicate what we would like to evaluate a function for given a value of x. So you've seen this kind of exercise before where we say evaluate, some equation. In this case, it's y equals 5x minus 7 for a given value of the variable. In this case, we have x equals 2. So we know at this point we just plug in a 2. It's very easy. So y equals 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 7 is 3, right? So y equals 3 when x equals 2. But using function notation, we can kind of shorten this process. What we can do is first say that this is f of x is equal to 5x minus 7. So this is my function here. And if I want to ask for the function's value when x is 2, all I'm going to do is put a 2 in for x in these parentheses here. So I would say f of 2. This is the function's value when x is 2. This equals 5 times, I'm going to plug in a 2 for x, then minus 7, and this equals what? 5 times 2 is 10, 10 minus 7 is 3. So f of 2 equals 3 tells me this is the function's value when the independent variable x is going to be 2. Okay, so f of 2 here is 3. So suppose I wanted to change this up, and I wanted to plug in a 9 here. What am I asking for? So f of 9 equals what? Well, I'm asking for the function's value when the independent variable x is 9. So again, I'm just plugging in. It's just like if I said for x equals 9. It's the same thing, okay? So I'm going to have 5 times 9 minus 7. 5 times 9 is 45. Then if I subtract away 7, I get 38. So this equals 38. So again, f of 9 equals 38 is telling me that the function's value when the independent variable x is 9 is 38. All right, let's look at an example with our quadratic function. So instead of y, we have g of x now, and this equals x squared minus 3x plus 4. So again, all I did was replace y with g of x. So if I want to find g of negative 2, g of 5, g of a, and g of a plus 1, all I'm doing when you get this type of example, you're just plugging in for the independent variable what you're given inside of those parentheses. So for example, g of negative 2, all I would do is plug in a negative 2 everywhere I see an x. So here and here, okay? So I would have negative 2, that quantity is squared. Make sure you wrap it in parentheses because I'm plugging in for x a negative 2. Okay, so the whole thing's got to be squared. Then minus, you've got 3 times negative 2, then plus 4. Okay, so negative 2 squared is 4. Let me just erase this and put 4. Negative 3 times negative 2, we know that's 6, so this is plus 6. And if we go through here, we know 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 6 is 14. So g of negative 2 is going to be 14. All right, so let me just write this off to the side. G of negative 2 is going to be 14. Okay, so again, that's the function's value when the independent variable x is negative 2. Let me erase this and use some highlighting instead. That might be a little cleaner. All right, so let's go to the next one. So now we have g of 5. Again, all I'm doing is, if I have g of 5, I'm saying what is the function's value when the independent variable x is 5. Okay, so just plug in. You'd have 5 squared, so 5 squared, minus 3 times 5, then plus 4. Again, all I did was I plugged in a 5 there and there. 5 squared is 25, minus 3 times 5, which is 15, and then plus 4. Okay, so 25 minus 15 is 10, and then 10 plus 4 is also 14. So we can say g of 5 is 14 as well. All right, so now let's look at one that might confuse you. So what if you get g of a? Okay, g of a. What do I do for that? So g of a, let me write the whole thing. We have what? We have x squared minus 3x plus 4. So what is g of a? Again, what did I do when I had g of 5? I plugged in a 5 for each occurrence of x, my independent variable. Well, if I have a, I'm just going to do the same thing. Okay, don't let this confuse you. Whatever they give you inside the parentheses, plug it in for the independent variable. Okay, so I'm just going to replace this with a, and I'm going to replace this with a, and g of a is just equal to a squared minus 3a plus 4. That's all it is. All right, so let me kind of slide this up, and let's look at the last one. So now we have g of, we have the quantity a plus 1. This equals what? Again, just plug in. So I have x squared. I'm going to kind of give myself a little room. Then minus 3 times x, give myself a little room, then plus 4. The reason I gave myself some room in each case is because I'm plugging in this a plus 1 for each occurrence of x. So remember, this has got to be squared. So it's going to be the quantity a plus 1 that's getting plugged in for x, and that whole thing is squared. Then minus 3 times x. So x, again, this is the quantity a plus 1, and then nothing else to do there. So let's scroll down, and let's kind of simplify this. So a plus 1, that quantity squared, we know that would be a squared plus 2 times a times 1. 2 times 1 is 2, times a is just 2a. And then plus 1 squared is 1. And then you'd have this basically negative 3 times each term. So you'd have minus 3a, and then minus 3, and then plus 4. Okay, so this is my g of a plus 1. So don't let this get you confused, okay? Very easy. Whatever they're giving you inside the parentheses, just plug it in for the independent variable. In this case, it's x, but it could be any situation that you're given, right? Whatever the independent variable is of that function, plug it in. So now I'm going to simplify. So g of a plus 1. I have a squared, nothing to combine with that. I have 2a minus 3a, that's negative a, so minus a. Then I have 1 minus 3, which is negative 2, then plus 4, which is positive 2. So g of a plus 1 is equal to a squared minus a plus 2. All right, let's take a look at another example. So we have h of x is equal to x minus 1 over x plus 1. So we want to find h of 1, h of negative 1, h of z, and h of z minus 3. So again, in each case, I'm just plugging in, right? So if I want h of 1, you can do this right here. There's enough room. This is equal to what? Plug in a 1 here and here, okay? And let me use a highlighter because, again, that's a little cleaner. So what am I going to have? I'm going to have 1 minus 1, which is 0, over 1 plus 1, which is 2. 0 over any non-zero number is 0. So h of 1 is going to be 0, okay? And I can leave that up here. All right, what about h of negative 1? Well, most of you see that you're going to have a problem there, right? Negative 1 is restricted from the domain because if you plug in a negative 1 for x there, you get negative 1 plus 1, that's 0. If you have 0 in the denominator, you have a problem, right? It's undefined. So this guy's restricted from the domain. We could say h of negative 1 is undefined. Okay. Now let's talk about h of z. And again, don't get confused when they give you another kind of letter to plug in because it's the same thing. If I had h of 1, I plugged in a 1. If I had h of negative 1, I plugged in a negative 1. If I have h of z, I just plug in a z. So h of z is equal to what? It's z minus 1 instead of x minus 1 over z plus 1. Okay, that's all it is. And then h of z minus 3, let's kind of scroll down and get some room. So h of z minus 3 is going to be equal to what? Again, to rewrite this, I know it's cut off from the screen. It's x minus 1 over x plus 1. So just plug in for x. So I'm going to plug in a z minus 3. So I would have z minus 3, and then we would have minus 1. And then again, I'm going to have z minus 3 and then plus 1. So z minus 3 and then plus 1. Okay. So z minus 3 minus 1, again, you can just drop the parentheses. I just did that to show you that I'm plugging in. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4, so you can just put z minus 4 in the numerator. In the denominator, negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. So let's put z minus 2. And let me make the z a little clearer because it looks like a 2. So let me make that crystal clear. So we end up with h of z. Let me make the z a little cleaner. Again, it looks like a 2. So h of z minus 3 is equal to z minus 4 over z minus 2. All right, so let's wrap up the lesson and talk about something that you might see in your course. So sometimes you're going to see functions in what is known as implicit form, okay? This means the function is not solved for the dependent variable y. So when this occurs, we're going to first solve the equation for y, and then we can just replace y with f of x or g of x or h of x or whatever you're using, okay? So it's just an extra step. So let's say we had something like x squared plus 2y equals 12. The first thing I would do before I tackle any of these kind of examples, I would need to solve it for y. So I want this guy by itself on one side of the equation. So we know the first thing would be to isolate the 2y, okay, the variable term with y involved. So let me kind of do this down here. I would have x squared plus 2y equals 12. Let me subtract x squared away from each side of the equation. And we know that this part right here is just going to cancel. So we're going to have that 2y is equal to negative x squared and then plus 12. Well, let me scroll down a little bit and we'll come back up in a minute. All right, so again, we're trying to solve for y. So what we're doing here is we're multiplying y by 2. So to get y by itself, I can just divide both sides of the equation by 2. And we know that this would cancel with this. I would have y is equal to, you'd have negative x squared over 2, and then plus 12 over 2 is 6. So this is my function solved for y. Okay, y equals negative x squared over 2 plus 6. Let's erase everything and copy this. So let me just paste this in right here. And I'm just going to put a visible border here. So we started with x squared plus 2y equals 12. I can erase all this now. We solved it for y. We get y equals negative x squared over 2 plus 6. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to change y into f of x. Okay, so I'm just swapping this out and saying this is f of x is going to be equal to negative x squared over 2 plus 6. So that's all you do when this guy is an implicit form. Okay, just solve it for y, and then you can replace y with f of x, g of x, h of x, whatever you're working with. So now we can do the same process as we used in the previous examples. If we want to find f of negative 1, well, then I just plug in a negative 1 for x, and I evaluate. So f of negative 1 is equal to, I have the negative of, you're plugging in a negative 1 for x. Now be careful here because whatever x is, it's being squared. So I want to wrap my negative 1 inside of parentheses, and I want to square that. And this is over 2 and then plus 6. So negative 1, that quantity squared, the negative and the 1, would be positive 1. So I can erase this and just put 1. Pay close attention because you still have the negative out in front. So really what I have here is negative 1/2 plus 6. So let me get a common denominator going. I'm just going to multiply this by 2 over 2. This would be 12 halves. Okay, this is 12 halves. So 12 minus 1 is 11. So basically this is going to be 11 halves. Okay, so we can say f of negative 1, or the value of this function when the independent variable x is negative 1, is going to be 11 halves. Okay, so let's erase this and we'll move on to the next one. So now we have f of 8. Okay, so let me write my function f of, and I'm just going to put 8 in this place. This equals negative x squared over 2 plus 6. And again, whatever I have for x, I'm just going to put parentheses around there, just leave a blank, and just plug this in. So I want an 8 plugged in for where x was. And so I have 8 squared, right? And the negative's out in front. Okay, so I'm not squaring that negative. If it's inside the parentheses, I'm going to square it. If it's outside, I'm not going to square it. You can really think about it like this. I have the negative of 8 squared. So 8 squared is 64. So basically you have negative 64 divided by 2, which is negative 32. So we get negative 32 plus 6, which would give me a final value of negative 26. Okay, So again, f of 8 is negative 26, or you can say the function's value when the independent variable x is 8 is going to be negative 26. All right, let's erase this. Now we have f of q. So f of q is equal to what? Again, wherever x is, just plug in the q. It doesn't matter that it's a different letter. Okay, you're just replacing x with whatever's inside of parentheses. So you're going to have negative of q squared over 2 plus 6. So that one's really, really simple. All right, let's look at the last one. All right, so we're going to have f of q minus 1. So again, let me start by writing f of, and I'm just going to put a blank here instead of x because I have to fill it in with this. This is equal to, we have the negative of x squared over 2 and then plus 6. Okay, so inside the parentheses, again, I'm going to use q minus 1. And you have to be careful here because you got to plug the q minus 1 in for x, and that whole quantity is being squared. So let me scroll down. We don't need any of this information anymore. So what I'm going to have is f of q minus 1 is equal to, I have the negative of, inside of parentheses, I'm going to put q minus 1, this quantity, and this guy is being squared. Okay, so remember, you have to expand this. You can't just say it's q squared minus 1 squared. That's a big mistake. Okay, then this is over 2, and then we have plus 6 over here. All right, so let's scroll down a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of expand this. So we already know how to do the special products formula on that. I would have q squared, right, the first one squared, then minus, right, because we have a minus involved, 2 times the first term times the second term. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times q is just 2q, okay? And then we would have plus the last term, which is 1 squared. 1 squared is obviously just 1, okay? So you have to make sure here that you pay close attention to what you have. So let me kind of slide this out of the way for a second. We have f of q, let me make that better. Again, f of q minus 1 is equal to the negative of this guy. Okay, this is what's going to be replacing this right here. But you have to make sure you take the negative of it. It's very important that you don't make a sign mistake. So the negative is outside of the parentheses, and then you have q squared minus 2q plus 1 inside the parentheses. This is all over 2. And then we have plus 6 over here. All right, so let's scroll down and get a little bit more room going. So what we want to do now is drop our parentheses and distribute the negative to each term inside the parentheses. So I'm going to have f of q minus 1 is equal to, if I make each term here into its opposite, you'd have negative q squared, then you'd have plus 2q, and then you'd have minus 1, right? So the negative of q squared is negative 2 squared. The negative of negative 2q is plus 2q, and the negative of 1 is just negative 1, okay? Then this is over 2, and then we have plus 6 out here. So I'm not done here because I could get a common denominator going. So I can multiply this by 2 over 2, okay? And what I'd have is f of q minus 1 is equal to, you'd have your negative q squared. You're not going to be able to do anything with that. Then plus your 2q, can't do anything with that. Then you have minus 1, but look over here. Now you're going to have 12 over 2 here. So I have a common denominator, so I can just do plus 12 over here on the numerator. And then let me kind of scroll down. This is going to be over the common denominator of 2. Okay, so what I can do now is just kind of give a simplified answer where negative 1 plus 12 is going to give me positive 11. And I can officially say that f of q minus 1, where again the function's value when the independent variable x is q minus 1, is going to be negative q squared plus 2q plus 11. And again, this is all over 2.